it is possible to make our navigation responsive. So here we have a vertical navigation, which works really well for smaller sized displays. And it works great on a phone, maybe even on a tablet, but it works great for that. For the larger one, it's okay, but more likely I'm going to want a horizontal nav on a larger size. So how do we do that? Well, the way that we do that is first we style it to fit for a smaller display size. So here's what we've done. We've set it in our style. We've added the nav. We've cleared both sides. We've changed the UL to no padding and no margin, and the list style to none. And then we've done lots of style on the A tag, the ones that are specifically in here. So once we've got that set up so that it's the way we want it for a narrow display, then we can add an app media rule that we will change it to be what we want it to be for the wider display. And so at media, and here we're going to talk about when the screen, when the display media is screen and min width is 768. Okay, so I'm going to set that there. And now what I've got is I've got a place to be able to put the style for when that screen gets bigger than 768, right? So when it's bigger than 768, it will display what's inside here. When it's smaller than that, none of this will apply, and it will drop back to using what is set in the main style. And that's what we want. We want in the main style, we want what it's going to be at that mobile first. So this is the idea of designing mobile first. All right, so what do we want? What do we want to change when it gets bigger? Well, we know that we want to change the LI to be inline. So we're going to display it inline, or inline block works too. And there we do that. And we have that inline. Okay, now we see a few of the things that we need to change, the style that doesn't work on the horizontal bar. So we're going to make those style changes, again, inside the app media rule, and we're going to change the style on the A link to be what we want. So we want to add a border. Looks like we have a border bottom, left, and right, so we want to add a border top. And we want it to be the same, so we can go up here in this A tag and get it so it's exactly the same. Okay, so there we've got that. Now we want to get rid of those margins that are between them, so they're bumped up against each other, so we can do the margin left. And here we have to use -1s because because of the way they overlap. So margin left, margin right, do -3 pixel. And there we have. So now we've created a nav that's horizontal, but now as we get this smaller, so as it gets down to 768, it changes to the vertical nav. So this is called responsive, right? So that by default, everything is set up to be a vertical nav, but then we added this media that says, hey, when it gets bigger, go ahead and change it to a horizontal nav. And there you go. That's how you make a nav responsive. And now as you change, you can make all kinds of changes. So you can make, again, your nav look however you want it, but you have two different ways that it's going to display. One when it's narrow and one when it's bigger. Let me just warn you about something that happens when you make this transition. If here on these eggs, let's say that I have made these wider, and so their width, let me get, I think 180 will probably do this for us. Let's see what happens. So when I refresh, they have this width and everything looks fine. I just have made them a steady width. But now, and then they drop they drop down. Oh, that's not wide enough. Let me try it a little bit wider. Now, there, did you see that problem? So it still drops to the vertical nav when it gets to be less than 768. But when it's bigger, but now watch, as it gets close, it's too wide and so it wraps. So this is a problem. You want to make sure that you don't get this wrap. And you just have to be careful. You can set up the width on it. So I know that I have 768 is the smallest it's ever going to get. So if I divide that by 4, then I know my limit is 192. And so I don't want to ever make them wider than 192. And that's if I just have 4 of them, right? So another way that I can do it is, and now it's going to force it to be that big. So we don't get that wrap. You just have to go right where it changes. Oh, and we're still getting it. So a better way that instead of individually doing it that way, let's go ahead and set a width on the UL. Nav, UL. We have to be really careful that we don't get that wrapping happening right there at that edge. And let's put a min width on this. So we say we don't always want it this wide, but the minimum that it can go is 768 pixels. And this will force it to stay big enough. So it can get bigger. So there it's bigger, but now it will never ever get less than 768. Soon as it, right? And so now I can't get it to wrap. Let's see if we can get really close. And we no longer get that wrap. See how it's spilling over there and we get the scroll bar? So we've filled it up. It's too full to fit. It can't go, but we said here you can't go any smaller. So the minimum width you can go is 768. So it couldn't go any smaller, so you get this scroll bar down here at the bottom. And that prevents that wrapping problem.